Hello and welcome back to the Real EFL and our third prediction video, where this time we're going to be tackling the 24-25 championship season. A lot of people are calling this one of the most open championships in quite a while. So let's get straight into it and have a look at where myself, Ivan and Adam are selecting the different teams to be. Okay, and here is the tier list then. We have got 6 different categories, starting off with our automatic promotions, playoffs, 7th to 11th, 12th to 16th, 17th to 21st, and finally the 3 teams who we think will be getting relegated. Now, although we are going to be arguing amongst ourselves here to create a table between the 3 of us, if you want to have a look at the Real EFL's total table, using all of our writers' predictions, then make sure to go and check that out over on the website now. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. And starting off is Blackburn Rovers. Ivan, whereabouts are you putting them?
I have got them just about surviving. I've got them in 20th after some late reshufflement of my reshuffling of my rankings. They've not done enough business so far in this window to excite me. Sammy Samodic is going, and I mean, to be fair, if he did stay, I don't think he'd have the same season as he did last year. They're going to get money for him. They're going to get money for Adam Wharton. Well, the money from Adam Wharton's also in play, but I don't think they're going to do that much with it. And for me, they will survive, but not by much, and be in a similar position to that of what they were in last year. Not saying surviving on the final day, but around about that kind of same position.
I have them going down. I have them in 22nd because I just feel like it's coming eventually. I really do. It reminds me a bit of, like, I know it's an EFL podcast or EFL YouTube channel, but in the Premier League, you had clubs like Southampton who just kept hanging on, and Sunderland as well, who kept hanging on. And you keep thinking they can't keep escaping every year. And last season was a great escape. I mean, it was that win at the King Power Stadium only because Leicester City had already won the league and had fully sacked it off. They managed to win 2-0 due to goals from Sammy Smodic, who is going to leave, you would imagine. 33 goals last season. I think he contributed to something like 53% of their goals. Yeah. Is it 51? Yeah, that's insane. Yeah. I mean, they're going to lose over half their goals. Where are they going to fight? They haven't signed anyone bar a young lad from Linfield and a goalkeeper from Everton's on the 21s. So I can see them. And I don't think they have the money either to buy players to stay up, because even if they sell Smodic for however much they want and use the money for Wharton, I don't know if John Eustace even gets to see that money. Maybe he does. I've absolutely no idea. I just know the club has been in a sticky financial situation in recent years, and I think this will be when they finally go down for the first time in a couple of seasons since Tony Mowbray took them back up.
Yeah, I'm actually with you on this one, Adam. I've got them now after a little bit of reshuffling. There was just a few teams that I just couldn't quite decide on, but I've got Blackburn to go down. Similarly to you, they've not done anything really yet. You know, let's be honest. They've made a couple of signings, like you say, but it's not really business that you'd be expecting for a championship club. And honestly, I echo your thoughts exactly there in terms of the money. Their ownership situation is poor. The fans have been protesting against it for a bit of time now. I think that this could be the wake-up call. I think that the club and the owners probably need. And I expect them to be in the relegation zone in January. Whether then they can whether they get a little bit of money, splash the cash in January to help them stay up, then potentially. But honestly, I can't see it happening. Like you say, Sammy Smodic is going to go. They were really poor last season. It was his goals that effectively kept them up throughout most of the last campaign. So for me, I'm happy to have them in the relegation spots. Now, next up, whilst we get Blackburn in the relegation zone, we have got Bristol City. Adam, where are you having them?
This is one of the hardest teams to predict, I think. The whole league is hard to predict, but I thought Bristol City are hard to predict because I really like Liam Manning. What do you mean, no? Where'd you go?
They're one of the easiest teams in the league to predict. They go between 12 and 16. They're the eternal mid-table side in the league. They've finished between 11th and 17th 6 of the last 8 seasons.
But they have Liam Manning now, and he's a coach I really, really like.
I mean,
they also signed Sinclair Armstrong.
I'm not saying you can't have an opinion here. That I was just saying. I
will.
Yeah,
I don't know. I really like Liam Manning as a manager or a coach, a head coach. I always have since he was at MK Dons. I thought, especially that season where they finished, it was in the playoffs. They finished in the playoffs. They were playing some unbelievable football in League One. I really, really liked him last season too. Some of the football they played, they signed Sinclair Armstrong, which I think is a good signing. I don't maybe share the hype that a lot of people see him to with Sinclair Armstrong. He is Irish, a compatriot of mine, and I've watched a lot of him. I think maybe he has a ceiling, but he's a decent player, especially at championship level. I've gone ninth, you know. I think they can have a really good season. I actually have them eighth, but I've kind of got a bit. I don't know. Just because they were so hard to predict, I really back Manning, and I think they haven't weakened their squad, and the league is now weaker. So that's why I've go eight. Screw it. Yeah, eight.
Ivan, are you having them in that 12th to 16th?
I think I've got them 12th or 13th. I don't think that's too unfair on them, really. Yeah, but I also do think that what Adam's saying, Manning's a great coach. Manning's a really good coach. I mean, he didn't take Oxford up, but he played a part in taking Oxford up. And that I know I said about the stat between them always finishing between 11th and 18th or 17th, but they could go slightly higher. But they're also not a playoff team in my eyes.
I agree with that. I've got them 12th, if I'm honest. It's difficult with Bristol City because, again, I'm going to echo your guys' thoughts. I really like Liam Manning. I think the signings that they've made so far are good on paper. I think there's still a few off, still a couple off to really kind of bridge that gap to be getting them to the top of mid-table. But I think they can do that, and it is probably a weaker league this season. I think that kind of 12th area is probably about right. So where are we settling? Are we settling for the absolute back end of 7 to 11 or the top end of 12 to 16?
You can put them in the back end of 7 to 11 now. I'm not
for now, yeah.
We can always move them down in a bit.
Well, let's do that then. But next up, we have got Burnley. Now, I will start on this. I have got Burnley to win the league. I think they're going to go straight back up. I think they've already got a really, really strong squad. Yes, okay, they've lost some players, but they've managed to keep a good core of it. They've also been able to bring in a good few players as well, one or two that they had on loan for the back end of last season. The business that they've done on paper seems to be great business. And I also think they're going to do some good business throughout the month of August as well. So for me, Burnley are going to have the backing to go straight back up. I think they'll get automatics as a guarantee. I've got them at the top.
I've gone second. Bear in mind, this is the Charlie and Ivan who both said that Scott Parker was jury's out was on Scott Parker in a recent video.
Charlie, how on earth you said jury's out on Scott Parker?
And then said he's going to win his third promote again.
I did, right. But if you actually listen to what I said in that exact managerial discussion video, I specifically said that he's not a long-term appointment for Burnley. He's an appointment that should hopefully be able to get them straight back up, but I can't see him doing anything in the Premier League. It's not a long-term appointment. That was my whole argument. So therefore, me saying that they're going to win the title... No, but I said that it wasn't solid choice. It has to be one lower. Fortunately, the way that we worded those categories meant that it had to be jury's out. He's not jury's out. He's got two promotions. Which, if I'm not mistaken, didn't we agree with in the end? Or did we have jury's out?
I didn't agree. I moaned throughout the whole video.
Yes. Ivan also agreed with me.
We're not here to talk. We're not here to talk about managers.
Anyway, I've also gone Burnley second then. I've gone Burnley second. I don't think they'll win the league. We'll get onto that in a while, but I think they'll finish second. As I said, they've done some good business. I think Scott Parker's a very good coach, even if he's somewhat hated. And people have this thing that are like, oh, but he always has the biggest budgets. That's why he does well. I was like, Daniel Farke didn't get Leeds up last season, and that doesn't guarantee anything. You know what I mean? Just look at Birmingham in 12 months. No, I'm joking. But I think he'll get them up second.
I've got them in fourth. I'm not as excited about them as both of you are, obviously, and quite a few others are. I think Parker's a solid appointment, but he's, I mean, obviously not as exciting as maybe when Company was in charge 2 seasons ago. The team's not quite as good as that same team, or not the same team, but as the team 2 years ago. There'll be a very solid team, and they're going to be towards the top of the table. But I don't think they're going to set the world alight and achieve automatic promotion. So I reckon they won't be any lower than 4th or 5th. But I've got them in 4th.
I think we have to go out map promotion, surely.
I would say so. I like I said, I'm more than happy for it to be 2nd. Yeah, like that's fair. I think
I will say my top 2 is very weird as well. So Burnley and Autos isn't a problem to me, but I can just see a world where they do not struggle, but not maybe reach the heights that you two are thinking. But anyway,
heights of 2nd.
Heights of 2nd.
Fair enough. Right, next up, and we have got Cardiff City. Now, I will be more than happy to admit when I am wrong, and I had Cardiff originally a lot lower than where I now have them. I say a lot lower than where I now have them, because I was convinced, and I did a little bit of more sort of having a look through their squad and their situation last season. Now, I had them predicted to go down last year. Wasn't the case. Don't think it's going to be the case this year. I've got them in 16th.
That's quite a big change. I also, I completely forgot, because this is being recorded the week after he signed, but I forgot they signed Chris Willock. And I think Chris Willock's a great signing in the level. Huge loss for QPR. Huge loss, but a massive game for Cardiff. I'm not saying he by himself would keep them up or propel them onto better, but I find it's a weird kind of mid-pack in the Championship. I think 12th to 18th is interchangeable. And I have got Cardiff in 18th currently, but they could. I mean, Adam knows the most about them out of the 3 of us, I'd say. So we can let him convince. But I'm not.
Why do I know the most about Cardiff?
Well, you watch.
Lots of sort of Cardiff City.
You're the Championship fan. Our teams are languishing near the bottom end of the EFL.
You know, Cardiff. Yeah,
I watched a good bit of Cardiff last season, or at least a good few games, and I thought they were okay. They were inconsistent. There were certain games where they were impressive. There was a lot of games where they rode their luck, especially early in the season. I'll never forget that game against Leicester City, where Aaron Ramsey scored an absolute screamer. And my God, they rode their luck throughout that game, especially the first half. But I don't think they're gonna go down, because they haven't lost anyone of note bar Ebu Adams, who they actively sold. It's not as if he forced a move away. He wanted to go to Derby County. He's at Derby County. They didn't make a concerted effort to keep him. They brought in Callum Chambers as well, Premier League experience, played for back when Arsenal weren't so much a Champions League club. They were a top 6 club or top 8 club. But but still, Callum Chambers is a really good signing for a club like Cardiff City, which I'm sure Aaron Ramsey had a helping hand in bringing him to the club. And as you said, Ivan, Chris Willock too. I've gone 14th because I think I can see them making the playoffs. I do like Errol Bullitt as a coach. He's decent, but I don't think the squad's good enough to get the playoffs. But they're not going to get relegated.
So bottom of that 12 to 16.
Yeah,
fair at the
moment. I would say that that's probably about right. It's such a difficult mid-pack with the Championship this season. I really am struggling with it. But next up, we have got Coventry City, a side who kind of ended their season with a little bit of a whimper last year after that Man United FA Cup tie, really. They kind of seemed to drop off a little bit after that. Just obviously what happens when you have so many games. But whereabouts are you guys putting them, Adam?
I've gone 7th, but they might, to be honest, I could be persuaded with Coventry, and I could be persuaded to put them in the playoffs. I really like Mark Robins. I think he's one of the best managers in the division, and that's not a shock to say that. His ability to develop players, I've spoke about on this channel before, is unbelievable. And they just signed, or they lost Callum O'Hare, but they replaced him with Jack Rodoni, who I think is was a bit expensive. But I trust Mark Robbins' ability to develop him as a player, because I look at players like Victor Gyökeres and Haji Wright, who were, I don't want to say, they were kind of like outcasts in other clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Gyökeres, who is now one of the most prolific players in Europe, which maybe tells you a lot about the current state of centre forwards in football. But still, he turned him into that really great player. And he's done it with, again, like Callum O'Hare, who's gone to Sheffield United, again, another really solid player. So yeah, I would say Coventry 7, but I'm willing to be swayed.
I've got them a tiny bit lower. I've got them in 9th, but I can easily see a world where they jump up into playoff contention. Echoing what you said, Adam, Mark Robins as a coach and a manager and as a developer, there are very few in the league who are better and maybe as consistent as him. He's been doing it for a number of years, and that's a big part of why they could maybe reach the playoffs. But I've just got them a bit lower. I didn't really have too much of a strong opinion on Coventry. They just always seem to be in and around playoff contention. So I think that could be once again for them next year.
I've also got them in 9th, actually, on my table. I could have easily been convinced to have them higher, not really lower. I think for me, their predicted finishing position at the moment depends on whether or not they keep hold of Ben Sheaf. For me, if they lose both O'Hare and Sheaf this summer, then they're going to struggle. The fact that at the moment that he's staying, obviously, like you say, they've replaced him with Donny. I think at the minute they're looking all right to at least be able to kind of replicate what it was that they were doing last season. And in a weaker league, again, as you were saying, there is definitely that option and that opportunity for them to push into the playoffs. But at the minute, I think they're just sitting outside of it, if I'm honest. So are we having them above Bristol City in that 11th? Yeah. Okay, sure. Perfect. Next up, and we have got Derby County promoted
Love
from...
the badge, by the way. The old badge.
Yeah, we're going retro.
That's the old badge. I like it.
It is. We're going retro with this video.
Gives me 708, 11 points vibes. I love it.
Oh,
are they going
to bring that up? Is there?
Yeah. Are they going to get 11 points in this season, Adam?
No, but it'd be a tight one. I've actually predicted them to just stay up, so I have them in 21st because I actually think they did some good business. They need a goalkeeper badly. They brought in the likes of Kenzo Goodmines or Mezat Alkmaar, who was a really good player for Mezat Alkmaar, but he just couldn't. He made a couple of appearances in the first team, couldn't quite break in. They also brought Ebu Adams back, who was an absolute fan favourite, beloved by the supporters. And they got Ben Osborne as well, which was a really good signing, by the way. I mean, he was Premier League last season. He's now playing for Derby County. That's something that even the likes of a Portsmouth and an Oxford United can't boast about right now. So if they get a goalkeeper, they'll definitely stay up. I would imagine they're going to. I think they're close to that, as of recording, they're close to that goalkeeper from Djurgårdens in Sweden, who's Jakob Videll Zetterstrom for 1.4 million. There's a nice little bit of pronunciation for you. But if they get a goalkeeper, yeah, I think they'll stay up because they're not the weakest squad in the league and they've recruited quite well. Paul Warren is a decent coach. He's been in the Championship before and has that experience. And they've signed some solid players as well for this level. So 21st.
I've got them in that same kind of category, a tiny bit higher. I think I've got 19th. I'm still a bit confused with why they let Wildsmith go.
Yeah.
Because he played very well for them and he's moved to West Brom now.
To sit on the bench.
To sit on the bench, yeah. But I thought he deserved to have a shot with them in the Championship. I don't really think he did anything wrong necessarily for them, but obviously I don't watch as much of Derby as Derby fans will, so feel free to correct me if you think that was the right decision. I like the signing they've only recently announced is of David Ozo from Palace on loan, or Ozo. And he could be a very solid acquisition. They've beaten a number of Championship clubs to him as well. Obviously, I think he's 19 or 20. So he's got a massive ceiling, will go on to better things. This could be the start of something for him at Derby. Ebu Adams as well, signing him. I mean, Cardiff are overjoyed because they hate him by the looks and sounds of things. As much as he's a good player and has done really well for Derby, I don't think they go down. They've got enough quality to stay up and compete in the division. And as a first season back in the Championship, I think their only priority can be survival and trying to establish themselves as a Championship side again.
So, I have got Derby in 17th. I think the signings that they've made are real positive signings for them. But again, as we've spoken about there, the squad is, lower end Championship squad as it is before any signings. And even with the signings, it doesn't quite make that jump up, I don't think, to proper mid-table yet. So, yeah, I think they're kind of around that. I don't see them being in a relegation battle really late on in the season, though, if I'm honest. But I don't quite know exactly how close it's going to be with, like, Blackburn, for example, if they are the ones sat in 22nd place. So we having them in there then? We all happy with that? Sort of just have them put in there for now. We can rejig it in a little bit if they need to go. They need to sort of be moved around from there. Next up, and we have got a team who, my opinion, was so undecided on when I first tried making this table, and that is Hull City. Adam, thoughts?
I had them really low on the table at one point. And then I just thought about the sheer effect of the beautiful Tim Walter. So I've put them in 12th because they have lost practically all of their best players, some of them have gone on for big fees. They have signed next to no one yet. They've signed, I think, one player. Was it one player they signed so far in total? Mm-hmm. And they desperately need to sign a lot more if they're going to make the playoffs. This is an easier Championship, and Rosinha was sacked for finishing only 3 points behind the playoffs, and then they proceeded to sell everyone they own and their nan. So I've gone 12th because the squad, like right now, all I have to work with is the squad they have, and no way is that getting the playoffs. I'm sorry. And Tim Walter's teams cannot defend. He has no history of promotion, although I love his football. I said that on other videos. I love his football. I've just gone 12 because, again, I'm working with what I can see right now in the squad, and it's not good enough to get playoffs. So 12th.
I've been a bit harsher and knocked him down to 15th, but it's all for the same reasoning as you. The reason why I've got him in 15th is I want to say actually it's probably not my most wild shout of the video, but I've just got a feeling or a thing in the back of my mind that just sees everything going wrong at Hull this season. Adam, you just spoke about the squad and how it's been absolutely ripped to shreds and they've not really done anything with it just yet. So I don't know what Charlie thinks, but for me, they definitely go into that 12 to 16 kind of category at the minute. But I think we could see quite a bit of a drop off from them.
If their squad hadn't been decimated in quite the same way, they'd be in the playoffs and they'd be up towards the top end of the playoffs. But the fact that they've lost out on those players, the fact that so far they haven't brought anybody in, I think they're going to have a massive August, by the way, in terms of transfers. I think there's going to be some serious money pumped into that club. Absolutely. And I think they're going to see this as their final like do or die chance, as you often see in the Championship, to get yourself up to the Premier League and spend some serious money. Because I do believe that they were teetering on the edge of profit and sustainability rules this summer as well, up until June 30th. So obviously there's a slight worry with that, but at the minute they are in 12th to they're in 10th to 12th, if I'm honest. So I'm not having them. I know it isn't. I think they're on par with Bristol City. I would prefer to have them in 7 to 11 than I would 12 to 16, but I'm also happy to have them in 12th.
No, 12 to 15, I think, because Ivan went for that as well.
And have them in 12th.
I think that's absolutely fair. Next up, and we have got one of the biggest clubs in this division, Leeds United.
One of?
Adam, you're shaking your... Well, I don't want to offend any other clubs here.
I'm not a Leeds fan. I respectfully don't really give a toss about Leeds in terms of having emotion for them. But who else?
As I'm looking down the list, there's probably no one.
There you go. Point proven.
Sorry, my mistake for using the words "one" and "off." So, Leeds United, the biggest team in the Championship. I am sorry, Sir Adam, the Leeds fan. Whereabouts are you putting your club then, Adam? Seeing as you've obviously got this massive bias towards Leeds.
I have a really bad relationship with Leeds fans, by the way, so I have completely. It's completely unbiased. Like I've met them. I'm going for title win because I just don't see how they don't. It's a weaker league. Okay, they're probably going to lose Somerville and Wilfred Nanto, and they've lost Archie Gray. They've lost Glenn Kamara as well. But they still got Joe Rodon back, which is huge. And they still have some, like Dan James and Joel Pirro and Jorginho Rutter. And at the moment, Ilya Melier, I don't see how they don't go up. If the competition is Burnley, respectfully, the talent differences is huge. I've gone first. You're both. I'm honestly, go on.
Ivan?
They're gonna have a playoff hangover. They're gonna have a playoff hangover. And as good as their team is, you're losing some big talent. There's no line there. Leeds fans will agree. If you lose the likes of Somerville, Noto, Gray, Kamara, all of that, they're massive names. They're going to have to replace them, which could lead to them having a slow start to the season. It could take a while for them all to gel. I just think that I'm already regretting the two teams that I've now got above them. But I just think Leeds they're gonna get off to not the best start because of the amount of change, and there being the playoff final loss last year was damning. Like, to be in a fight with Ipswich and Leicester for the whole season and then to not get promoted, I think it's going to really affect them. They could so easily win the league, so easily.
Yeah, they will.
But I don't think they will. So I have an opinion, Adam. You have yours. Playoffs.
My opinion is much more on the side of Ivan's on this one. I've also got them in third place. I just think at the moment we have to do this based on, the transfers and the squad as it currently is, and they've lost some big hitters. And you're looking at the players that they've brought in. They've brought in Joe Rodon. They've brought in Jayden Bogle. I think he's a fantastic signing for right back, a position that they needed to fulfill. But it's also looking likely that they're going to be losing Julia Firpo, so they're going to need a left back in as well, and they've not currently brought anybody in for that position. I just don't quite think that they're going to fulfill that squad at the moment. If I'm looking at it on paper, that squad at the moment isn't quite full enough to be at the absolute top of the division, third place with a couple of teams better than them. I agree with Ivan. I think they're going to start weak, but they will pick it up. And then it's going to depend on how ruthless they are with Daniel Farke throughout the season, because, bearing in mind this is Leeds, they could end up being quite ruthless, especially under sort of new ownership structures.
If any other team in the league had that squad, even with the losses, you're putting them first. But anyway,
I don't have a bias against Leeds at all.
Once the fans will come after me, I genuinely don't care.
Okay, Luton Town then. Ivan, kick us off. Where are you going with Luton?
League winners. I've just changed it. I've flipped it around.
So I'm not laughing at the choice. I'm just laughing at Adam's reaction.
I mean, I just think Rob Edwards has built a Championship super team. When they went up to the Premier League, they didn't have a Premier League team. They purposely weren't bringing in players to keep. Well, they might have tried to stay in the league, but I think they were more looking at trying to build a team for the season after, so they can continue to build and continue their upwards trajectory, and that's by building a Championship super team. Edwards is a great manager, and their experience of winning the playoffs 2 seasons ago will serve them incredibly well. I also think that the experience of being in the Premier League last year will serve them potentially even better. You've got to think that this is a team who, for most of the 2010s, were they Conference League 2, League 1. Like, they're overperforming massively. They've got a manager who the fans absolutely love and respect. how many teams get relegated from the Premiership and no one will doubt the manager for a second? I think there's just
Sheffield United.
They sacked. I can't. Who even was there? They sacked Heckingbottom after
Heckingbottom,
12 games. But I just think there's so much respect for Rob Edwards, and I can just see there's something building there. Obviously, losing Ross Barkley is a loss, but that was expected. Selling Brian Giles for $4 million, what a piece of business considering he's unwanted by them. I just think that Luton are going to be a really good side this year. Got good home form. I just really like Luton. I've got a lot to like, and part of it is a bit of the fairy tale story of going all the way up. Like I've seen Carlisle play Luton in League Two, and I just think that they could go straight back up to the Prem.
I've gone fourth. Should
I overreact to put my head? Oh,
overreaction. It's not an overreaction, but anyway, I've gone fourth because I think, yes, Luton were in the Premier League last season and they will have that money as well from the parachute payments and just from being in the league itself. However, Leeds were there for 3 seasons, so they have that backed up. Burnley as well have only been in the Championship once in the last few years, so they have a lot more money in the bank than, well, I say a lot more money in the bank. I know Leeds have a bit of debt, but they'll probably have bigger budgets to spend. I know Luton won't spend much money anyway. They do really good business, but they don't spend much. And they also lost Ross Barkley, which is massive for them.
Yeah.
So I just think, I'm happy to go third. I'm not really arsed either way, I suppose. I'll go third, third.
Well, I've got fifth on mine. It's kind of similar reasonings to what you were saying, Adam. I think the loss of Ross Barkley is obviously difficult. I agree with what you were saying, Ivan, in terms of they were setting themselves up to come straight back up when they immediately got relegated. That was what their whole aim was in the Premier League. And I think that was commendable, the way that they did it. I just don't quite think they're going to bounce immediately back up in the automatics. And I'll be honest, I was really torn on this. There were times where I did have them in those top 2 positions when I was building my table, but I just think there's a few stronger sides that are going to have better seasons. So I kind of had to have them a little bit lower down in 5th place. I really love Rob Edwards. But yeah, so I think we're saying, are we having playoffs then?
Yeah.
Should we say behind Leeds? Just to keep everybody happy on that front. Next up, and we have got Middlesbrough. I'm going to kick straight off with this. Another side who I've actually got in the playoff positions. I think they've done some good business so far this summer. I think Michael Carrick is a good manager. Last season, obviously, they struggled at certain parts of the year, picked it up, and I think this season they're going to kick off as they mean to go on, be inside of the playoffs quite early on, and probably just be one of those teams that hover in and around there, a little bit like we sort of had last season with the likes of West Brom, for example, who were sort of hovering around 5th and 6th for a lot of the campaign. So for me, that's where I'm having for Middlesbrough.
I think the fact that as soon as you said you've got Middlesbrough in the playoffs, Adam and I both just nodded our heads. Probably the first time that's happened this video. I don't really have much to add. Michael Carrick's a great manager. Got an easy start as well, so if they get off to a good start, then who knows? But I think playoffs is at the very least to be in the playoffs.
I actually put them third initially, and I'll still stand by that because it doesn't really matter either way. I just think this is his second full season, his third in total. Carrick, that is, in charge of Middlesbrough, and they've signed some really good players. Aidan Morris, I spoke about before on the channel, is an unbelievable signing for 3.14 million. Unbelievable signing, and Carrick will make him into a phenomenal player. And he's staying at the club as well, which is huge. Probably the best bit of business Middlesbrough have done all summer is keeping Carrick. I think this would be the season you really see Middlesbrough crack on, and I predict them to go third.
There we go then. So that is Middlesbrough. By the way,
they're my promotion team in the playoffs.
Right, well, there you go then.
They're also my promotion team in the playoffs.
I was very much torn, but they're certainly up there. I didn't actually select a team to get promoted in the playoffs because, quite frankly, the playoffs can so often be a lottery. Next up, and we have got Millwall, who have made a few signings so far this summer. But is it going to be good enough to be pushing them up into higher mid-table, in and around the back end of the playoffs? What do you think, Adam?
I've gone 18th because
Yeah.
I don't know. They signed some good players. Japhet Tanganga, like class signing for a championship club. He's probably good enough to be I feel like a Premier League squad player. Well, he was for a while, wasn't he? A top 6 squad player of Spurs. But he at least starting for a club up the upper end of the championship. And I don't think Millwall are going to be that. But I also think Macaulay Langstaff is a good signing. I don't know how he's going to do, though. Really good goal scorer in National League and League Two, obviously. No idea how that's going to translate to the championship, which is obviously a much tougher league. So I've just gone 18th to be safe. I don't want to spend too much time in 18th.
I've got them up in 12th, which I found it hard. This is my problem with championship is I said it earlier. The 12th to the 16th, 17th, 18th is all quite weird. But there were stark improvements at Millwall when Neil Harris came in. He's a man that loves the club and the club love him. And it's kind of similar to why I like Luton and Rob Edwards, is because you've got that connection with the fans where they know that they've got someone in charge that does truly love the club. Some good business so far, like you said. Tanganga, Jensen as well is one of the best keepers in League One last season, and I actually think Langstaff gets 10 plus next season. It's a big step up, but he might not be as quick to like setting into the championship, but no one can deny just how good of a goal scorer and a poacher he is. And if Millwall can if he can get himself in the right positions, I think he could have quite a good year with them. So mid-table side for me.
So I've got Millwall in like 19th, 20th for very much the similar reasons that Adam was saying. I think they've made some good signings so far. Tanganga is a good signing. He's just not quite at that same pedigree as he was. You know, that debut against, was it Liverpool that he came on or started and just absolutely ran the show that day. He's just not that same player anymore. He doesn't really have that same kind of reputation with him. He's not really played to that same level.
You were also saying you're talking about Tanganga playing for Tottenham in the Premier League.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Playing for Millwall in the Championship.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. He's just not at that same level, and I don't think it's the signing that would be taking them up the Championship into that upper echelons of the division. Lucas Jensen, fantastic goalkeeper. But again, you know, it's interesting. And for me, Macaulay Langstaff is the biggest jury's out striker you can think of. So, Millwall, 20th.
You're so salty. Lucas Jensen's a good signing.
Yeah, you are.
That's what I said. I literally just said he was a good signing.
No, it's so like pass off. You're like, oh, he's a decent player. Like,
no. I'm saying like he's a fantastic signing for them. They've literally just got the best goalkeeper in League One from last season. Like, it's as good as they could have done in that kind of area of the players that they were searching for. Not denying that at all. So I've got them behind Derby. They probably need to be in front of Derby. But look, next up, we've got Norwich City then. Whereabouts have you got them then, Ivan? Because you seem to be smiling.
This was the Ivan mental shout where I had them top of the table until I said Luton. I think Norwich are going to go really well under Hofstorp. It's an appointment that we have all said we are rather fond of. Yes, it is a risk because he is unproven in the EFL, but risks bring rewards, and I really like that appointment. You've also seen them bring in Jose Cordoba, who could be a great signing. I think we're going to see quite a chunk of improvement across the entirety of the squad under Hofstorp. They had, interestingly, last season they were above average for the league in squad age. They're now below that. And I think we're going to see Hofstorp bring in a few more youngsters. And I'm going to put them below Luton now. So I'm still going to put them to gain automatic promotion, but I'm going to have them in second instead of first. I've just wanted to, spice it up a bit and say that Norwich are better than Leeds and Burnley, which they could be. You never know.
His Northern team were great. However, there's a lot of juries out with this side at the moment. With the manager himself, or the head coach himself, with Jose Cordoba. And as you said, Ivan, the idea from the board was always to bring the average age of the squad down. Hence why the likes... And they've managed to do that. Fair play to them. But I just think... I I just don't see how they get top two. I've actually gone 6 just to be a bit safe because it could also go really badly. It could go terribly. I wouldn't get as giddy as to say they'll finish top 2 in my opinion. So I've gone 6, but I think they'll get the playoffs because the league is weaker. The squad is still pretty good though. So I've gone 6th.
I'm really, really tough. So on my list, I have Norwich in second. But I'm listening to you there, Adam, and I'm sort of 50-50 now because there are a lot of question marks about it. My original thinking was, okay, this is a transitional year for Norwich, but this is a weak championship, so they're good enough in a transitional year to still get out of it. That was my thinking. And I don't expect it to be a whole year of transition like you see for some clubs. I'm expecting it to be a couple of months and then they'll absolutely kick on. I think they're going to be the team that maybe arrive late into the autos and get it. That's how I see this one going. But I also fully appreciate that there are a lot of juries out question marks on this. So I'm having Norwich in the top 2. I think that's 2 versus 1 in terms of
the only thing
selection.
I know I've got them to come second, but the fact that Leeds are now behind Norwich is a bit.
You got what you wanted. my little rant. I mean, you got 2 clubs above them.
Of Norwich that high.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll roll with it, but I think we can also, the next two. I can lead on the next 2. I think we can rattle through both of them.
Yeah.
Quite quickly.
Should we just stick the next 2 where I think we are all expecting them to be in the same place. Ivan, explain whilst I'm doing it why they're going there.
I've got Oxford bottom and then Plymouth in 23rd. As much as I would actually, I think it'd be great if Oxford stayed up, but they can just be massively out of their depth. And like we've spoken about the signing of Peter Kyoto, who is a very good player in League One and will do a job in the Championship. He's cost him like, was it 600,000, 700,000 on a right back? And you're going up to the Championship. I can't say anything. I'm a very average at best football player. But your best player in your team or your most expensive signing of that window shouldn't be a right back. And that sounds so harsh, but I don't think that's the right kind of direction they should be going in. I've already spent too long talking about them. They've done so well to be in the Championship and it's a great achievement, but they're just out of their depth. And I think all fans know that. Enjoy it while you can.
I'm just going to say that for the 2025-26 League One campaign, I'll be back in Oxford for a top 6 finish because I think they put together a decent squad for top 6 League One. I don't think it's going to keep up in the Championship though.
Their own CEO made a comment after they originally got promoted saying, we're not going to be fighting with the Championship clubs to be paying Championship money for signings. Brilliant. We'll do what we need to do and we'll be part of the league. Well, he didn't exactly say that, but I think that's kind of the gist that a lot of people got. And then obviously Plymouth in there as well. Plymouth, Wayne Rooney. Anybody?
Also, you've got to kind of think that, I mean, I reckon that Whittaker's going to go. And if Whittaker goes, they're losing their best player, who arguably kept them up last season, take away his goal contributions, and where'd they be? Mm-hmm. Rooney as an appointment is potentially the riskiest possible one that they could have gone with. I'm really surprised that Plymouth have gone for him. But we've been wrong many a time before, so...
I think they'll go down, and I have predicted them to go down 23rd. But I still think they can surprise a few, because there's a way to get relegated, which could be Rotherham last season, who barely won a game in the second half of the season, or you can go down fighting, which I think Plymouth will. And I actually think they'll surprise a few. And maybe that means Rooney doesn't lose his job, because they have the second worst squad on paper in the league. So I don't see what his objective is other than surviving. And if he finishes 2 points off survival, I can't see them giving him the chop. So, but I still say 23rd.
Yeah, that's totally fair enough. Next up then, we have got Preston North End. Now, I'll kick straight off with this one. I've got them in 20th place. I don't really think they've progressed at all this season. I think they're going to be in and around that relegation battle. I think they're just going to be staying up, one of the teams that do stay up on the final day. I just can't really see anything about Preston that wows me and makes me think that they're going to be anywhere near even mid-table. So for me, 20th. Adam?
I've gone 20th as well. I think they've lost, Liam Miller. They've lost their captain, Alan Brown. They've signed Sam Greenwood on loan and Stefan Titer Thordarson from Danish side Silkeborg. Silkeborg did all right last season, to be fair to them. I do watch a lot of Scandinavian football because I'm an absolute loser. They did okay. They were not great going forward or defensively, but I believe they finished 5th or 6th. And he did all right. But I don't think it's going to be a game changer for them. And as I said, they've lost their 2 best players. They're running the risk now of being dangerously low down that table. But I've said 20th.
I've got them in 21st. I think they might just drop down, and part of that is some of it is recency bias. I mean, look how they finished the season, losing each of their last 5.
Yeah,
cracks are showing, but like I had Preston in 22nd, and I had Blackburn in 20th, so it's not a massive difference. So that's fine to put them there by me.
Yeah. There we go then. So Preston are in there. Now, next up, Portsmouth, newly promoted side, obviously from League One. Quite a few interesting signings and such that they've made so far. Adam, where are you thinking for Portsmouth?
Do you know what? I actually think they've disappointed me a little bit, as weird as that sounds. I thought they'd do a lot more in the transfer window, but I don't think they're going to go down because I think their squad, they haven't really lost anyone up too much now, and I think their squad's still good enough to stay up. They signed, Jordan Williams, Josh Murphy, decent, and Jordan Archer. But I don't know. I just thought they'd do a lot more. I thought they'd really crack on, and people thinking they're going to come up and do an Ipswich, they're not. But 19th.
I've got them in 10th. I completely agree. I completely agree with your point about their window being a bit uninspiring so far. Obviously, with predictions, we are recording this quite early, so they could improve on that business. But I just think that under John Messino, there's definitely. I love using the word project. There is a project building. They were so good in League One last season. Such a good side. They got rid of some of the deadwood in the squad. I also reckon part of the reason why they might have not done as much business so far is because a lot of the Premier League sides aren't loaning out their loan players, and I fully expect Portsmouth to utilise that. And because of how they did last year and the current trajectory of the club, I feel like that could be. They're the team that strike me as one of the ones to utilise a few. Utilise the loan market this summer. Owen Moxon, Championship Player of the Season next year as well.
Should have known that you'd find a way to worm in a little Owen Moxon piece. I've got them in 19th as well, if I'm not mistaken. Was that the exact same as you, Adam? Is that right on that one? Yeah, I just feel like they're going to be a decent enough squad, but they're not going to be exciting. They'll probably just be outside of a relegation battle going into the final day, so they'll be all right on that. They won't be looking over their shoulder, but I can't really imagine them being upper mid-table, if I'm honest. So 17 to 21 area for them. Next up, we've got Queen's Park Rangers. They've again made a few interesting signings. Thoughts on that one, Ivan?
I've got them in 14th. I think they're still going to continue to improve a bit under Cifuentes, but I don't think their ceiling is quite as high as both some other people think, but also maybe some of the other clubs in this league. I mentioned earlier about Chris Willett going to Cardiff, and that's such a huge loss for them. And they need to find a replacement this window, and fairly soon, probably before the season starts. Also, but you also look at the fact that they've sold Sinclair Armstrong, got some good money for a striker. Yes, he's young, but he wasn't exactly prolific. He could turn into a really good player for Bristol City, but they've also got a good amount of money from him, even though he wasn't he wasn't an essential player in the team. So if they reinvest that, then they could do all right. But I think it's just QPR just strike me as a mid-table side.
Well, they signed Zancella, didn't they, from Lugano, and he was in the Euros. He played against England in the god-awful goalless draw against Slovenia. And then I think Hull wanted him, QPR got him. He had 50 goals or 60 goals or something like that for Lugano in the last couple of seasons. I think that's a crazy good sign. They've just signed an international footballer. I think it's a crazy good sign. They've got rid of Sinclair
Armstrong's technically an international footballer, isn't he?
No,
Ireland.
because
I don't think he is.
I
he
thought
didn't
he
make
made
his
an
debut.
appearance for
No, and
Ireland
we're
earlier
real
this year.
bad. And we're real bad.
Yeah.
So I just think, I don't know. I like Sinclair Armstrong as a person, and I like his style of play. But you've just replaced him with a really prolific centre forward who I think will do well in this division. So I've gone 15th. I love Cifuentes, and I have such a soft spot for QPR, even though I've never met any QPR fans.
So I've got QPR as 13th. Actually, for a lot of the same reasons, obviously. I actually think that the signing of the centre forward is exactly what they needed this summer to kind of help take them forward to the next step. And hopefully that can happen now. 13th this season, then with the potential to push on at a later date, I think. So are we kind of agreeing in that kind of 12th to 16th range, chuck them in the middle of them too?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, next up, and we've got Sheffield United, who obviously start the season with a 2-point deduction. I'm really torn on this one, so I'm going to throw it over to one of you two.
I'll go first if you want, Ivan.
Please.
You know what? People keep predicting Sheffield United to be near the relegation zone. They've lost a lot of players. Things 14, 15 players, but they're about to sign Harrison Burrows, which is a really good signing. Obviously, they've lost John Egan, they've lost Daniel Jebison and Ollie McBurney, who's gone to Las Palmas, and they've lost Cameron Archer as well.
That is incredible. That is incredible.
It's like when Alan Hutton went to Mallorca. And not on holiday, he went to play. But I don't think it's going to be that drastic. Chris Wilder's a decent manager. They have some decent players. They have some good players. And as well, when people say, they've lost 14, 15 players, a lot of them didn't play. A lot of them were absolute. Is Ollie McBurney a huge loss? Respectfully, with the biggest respect in the world, is he a huge loss? I don't think so. He scored the odd penalty in the Premier League. I don't think he's a massive loss. So I've gone ninth because I don't think they're going to get playoffs, but I don't think it's going to be drastically bad.
I've actually got them in the playoffs. Well, not purely on, but I still I know they've got the 2-point deduction, but I still expect them to bring in quite a few more players. Like you mentioned, they've had a lot of outgoings, but I think a couple of the signings they've made so far are quite decent. Callum O'Hare's a really good one, and I love Kiefer Moore. At the level, I think Kiefer Moore is such a good striker, and I'm not saying he'd be the reason that they'd make the playoffs, but he'd play a big part in it. I mean, look at Ipswich last year. Yes, he was only with them for the second half of the season, but I think he got 7 goals in 18 games. And it's that experience in the league, which I think they'll need. And he'll be the focal point of the attack. And they got him on a fairly good deal. I think he was just under $1.5 million. I don't know. I'm a bit undecided on whether they can or can't make the playoffs, but I wouldn't have them. I'd have them in the top 10 at the very least.
I've got them in 8th. So I think we're all on pretty similar lines here. I think the transfers they've brought in are almost perfect for what they could do, especially if they've got financial issues hanging over their heads still. I think bringing in the free signing like Callum O'Hare, bringing in Kiefer Moore for, was it $1.5 million or something daft like that? It was really, really cheap for a proven championship goal scorer, as we've said. I think losing Jayden Bogle is a hit, but it's not a massive hit, and they have lost a few players. But again, I think they've started replacing some really well. And that 2-point deduction, it's not like it's 8 points. It's not like a Wigan where last season where they had to go 3 or 4 games or whatever to actually get to 0. It's 2 points. They can do that in a game week. So for that reason, I think 8th, just knocking on the outside of the playoffs. I think at the end they'll be ruining those 2 points. But yeah, 8th. Are we happy with that? Yeah, perfect. Okay, next up then, and we've got their city counterparts, Sheffield Wednesday. Now, I did a YouTube video on this one that you can go and watch up here, that way, where they do the little cards on YouTube. I always keep on forgetting which way round it is. For me, there's too many question marks still around Sheffield Wednesday. I think they've recruited really, really well, and on paper, they've got an unbelievably good squad for the Championship this coming summer, with Danny Roll, obviously, at the helm as well. But those too many question marks for me mean I've got them in 11th place.
Oh, bang on.
Oh.
Where have you got them, Ivan?
I'm all aboard the Danny Roll hype train at the minute. It's just about to reach its next destination. That's 8th place for me.
Next destination is 8.
I think they've shown significant ambition this window. Jamal Lowe, Max Lowe, Jan Valery, Charlie McNeil, James Beadle's back on loan, isn't he, as well? I think they're throwing plenty at it, and it's a stark contrast to last summer when they were throwing nothing at it. Like, you know what I mean? There's a big shift in ambitions, and I think they're giving it plenty this year. Don't think we're going to see them in the playoffs. I think that's too much improvement will be required from them. But I don't see why they can't be a top 10 team, top half team.
I still just think it's a mid-table squad, though. Even though they've massively strengthened, it was like they were at a really bad level of squad, and they've now strengthened to like mid-table. So I've said 11th, like Charlie. I think they're going to have a really good season. And by the way, 11th is phenomenal. 11th is maybe generous.
Considering where they were,
Yeah, to go from like not winning any of your opening 10 games to sacking Zizko Munoz, and then you bring in this unknown guy who was supposedly a highly rated coach at the clubs he was with, and then he managed to turn you into one of the most exciting teams in the league and keeps you up. I'd say 11th.
I think we can be fair with Ivan having 8th, and maybe just put them above Bristol City and have them in 10th. I think that's a reasonable compromise on that front. If we're being fair. Next up, and we've got Stoke City. Obviously, no longer Stoke. Obviously, won't be the graveyard shift, but they will be the morgue. So, Adam, whereabouts are you having Stoke? That would have been pretty incredible.
I don't know, to be honest. Like, Stoke is a club that I think we're entering into this like new generation of Stoke. So, with that in mind, I put them in 16th. I put them 16th. They signed decent players. Ben Gibson is good. Victor Johansson's a great signing. Eric Bocat, I have no idea what he's going to be like. Eric Bocat Jr. But I just think squad's not wonderful still. I thought they do a lot more business now for what is their new era under Johnny Walters and Stephen Schumacher. I just think 16th. Like, the players they let go of, grand, yeah, like Tom Edwards is gone, Kieran Clark, Tyrese Campbell, and Wesley. Wesley was still there. I don't know. 16th, I think, is fair.
I'm the exact same with you. 16th as well, and my main point was the only real positive, I suppose, because their business hasn't been bad. I wouldn't say it's been the best in the division, but they've got rid of a lot of dead wood, so that could help them further down the line. But yeah, 16th to me, they don't really excite me too much.
My team has changed around. My list has changed around so much that originally
who's where now.
Basically, yeah, exactly that. I had them actually up in like 12th, 11th, 12th. But now that's probably a little bit too high. I think that 12th to 16th category is about perfect for them. I was really excited when they started the window by bringing in Victor Johansson and Ben Gibson. That showed real ambition nice and early. And then they've not really carried that on. It hasn't really snowballed in the way that I kind of hoped for them that it would do. So for me, again, I'm more than happy for it to be there. I would personally put them above Cardiff, but I'm happy for them to be behind. Yeah. Okay, next up then, and we've got Sunderland. Sunderland, obviously a massively weird one, considering they spent most of this summer, instead of focusing on players, still focusing on a manager. So, Adam, why don't you kick us off with Sunderland?
I still think the squad's really good. I mean, they haven't lost that. Like, they still have Jack Clark. They still have Joby Bellingham. It looks like they're going to sign a centre forward finally, and Alexandra Mendy, or he said he's signing for them, which is bizarre. sort of like Peter Odom-Wingy when he rocked up at the training ground that time. But, I don't know, like Dan Ballard's a player I really like. They've Luke O'Nien, I just think it's Anthony Patterson as well. They've kept great goalkeeper. I've put them 10th because I think the squad's still pretty good. One or two additions, like they brought in Alan Brown, obviously, who is okay. It was a bit of a surprising signing, but it's still decent. But I'd say 10th, maybe with an outside chance of the playoffs.
I've got them in 11th. I think similar to you.
Yeah.
The appointment of Labrie, it could work out, could not. That's
it's like Scott Parker.
That's me sitting on the fence. But yeah, I just think with Labrie, because they interviewed so many other managers or were rumoured to be in for so many other managers before him, it does feel like he was third or fourth choice. But yeah, I think that kind of 10th, 11th, 12th is a fair kind of assumption.
When I'm looking at the positions and the categories that we've got left to fill out, we've got to fill out the playoffs with one, 7th to 11th with one, 12th to 16th with one, and 17th to 21st with one. And for me, Sunderland are that second of they're probably the second highest of the remaining four teams that I would be predicting. So for that reason,
Bristol City.
I would put them in there.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah, we'll allow it.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect then. And next up then we've got Swansea City. Now I'll start off with this. For me, I think they're going to improve under Luke Williams, but then I'm also not sure. I'm really on the fence with Swansea. I don't even know why I started with them. They're going to go in the 12th to 16th for me because there is just this massive question mark over them. I don't quite know what to expect from Swansea City this season, so I'm just going to play safe and predict them mid-table.
You were more generous than I was. Yeah, you go Ivan first.
I've got them down in, I think, 20. I've got them down in 21st. Yeah. So Adam's going to meet us in the middle because I think I've probably been a bit too hard. I'm just not. I don't know. I'm not totally convinced with their business so far. I like Luke Williams as a manager. I think he's done he did great things with Notts County. How much will they push on under him, and how much time is he going to be given as well if they do get off to maybe a rocky start? They've also lost Nathan Wood, who's gone to Southampton. I wouldn't. I think looking at it again, maybe I'm being harsh in 21st, but I think they're in that 17 to 21 category for me.
Well, I've gone 17th. They brought in Gonzalo Franco from Morange and Ji-Sung Eom from the K-League, a club that and then Lawrence Vigouroux as well from Burnley goalkeeper.
Yeah,
from Burnley goalkeeper. But I've gone 17th because that's not enough to even challenge for the playoffs at all, to even be mid-table. I don't think their squad was particularly very strong going into the season anyway before they made these signings. I do like Luke Williams though, very good coach, but I think 17th is fair.
So I had them written into 14th, and again, for the reasons that I was explaining earlier, I'm just looking at these final three, and in fact, I think Swansea and Watford we can kind of group together here then, because we've got to have one in the 17th to 21st, one in the 12th to 16th. Now, for me, I've got Watford in, I think, 18th.
Really?
I think they're really going to struggle this season.
I'd have Watford above Swansea.
I would too, yeah. I've gone Watford 13th.
Watford 13th?
Yeah, 13th, yeah.
Right, okay.
I was impressed by what Tom. I know we haven't moved on to Watford yet, but we may well have. We've segued in.
Do them all together.
I was really impressed with what Tom Cleverley did last season. He came in, didn't win many games, but God, they were hard to beat. And they've signed. I know Ismail Kone's gone. He's gone. But Rocco Vata is a really good player, and I would like to see him get first team minutes this season a lot more than he did at Celtic. And Mr. Sissoko's a wild one, But Mamadou Doumbia is a big Antonio Tikvich, who they obviously got from Udinese. Why wouldn't they? But Mr. Sissoko's a bit of a wild. Like, I know he's been there before. The fans kind of liked him, but they were an absolute mess that season when they went down. But he tried, which is his expertise, I suppose, is what he does. He tries hard. He runs around. But yeah, I think Tom Cleverley's going to make them quite hard to beat this season, and I don't think they're going to make a push for the playoffs. But I can't see them in a relegation battle because the squad is still solid.
No, I don't think they'll be in a relegation battle at all. Like I say, for me, I had them lower down.
Yeah, but 18th would be.
Yeah, 18th's a relegation.
Like
It depends. Last season it was, but last season it was.
I think I'd be putting Swansea in that maybe towards the top of the 17 to 21, and then Watford in the 12
Let's have a
to
look.
16.
So Swansea above or below Millwall?
Swansea at the top, I'd put. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
then Watford. Watford to go in here. Are they above any of these?
Maybe Stoke.
I think Stoke at least. Yeah, I'm happy to consider the rest.
No, I'm more than happy either way on that. It's really, really difficult. Like we said, those kind of particular places. I think Watford are going to struggle this year, and is Tom Cleverley going to get the season? It is Watford after all. They probably will get the corner flag photo out at some point. It's just about when that happens and whether or not it's actually justified as to how their season progresses. But look, we've got one team left, and we've effectively got one space left. Did we all have West Brom in the playoffs?
We did.
Yep.
Perfect. That was easy.
Thanks for watching.
Sixth place.
I had fifth because I just had them fifth. Why not? I mean, they didn't. Their squad didn't get weaker bar Cedric Kipper, but they brought in Torbjorn Hegem. Kipper's going to Rennes or something in France. But I don't know. I just really like Carlos Corberán. I think he's probably one of the best coaches in the division. Shocked, like top 5 at least. You could even argue the best. But like he constantly makes teams punch above their weight. He did it with Huddersfield. He did it with West Brom, I think, last season. Because I look at that whole City side that Liam Senior failed with, and I think that was better than the West Brom team, in my opinion, especially going forward. I mean, Brandon Thomas Asante, who's a good player, leading your line is wild. But yeah, I don't think they get automatics. I'm fifth or sixth. I don't care.
Yeah, I actually have just had to check my notes. I did have them originally in 7th, so just missing out in the playoffs. But I just find it so hard between them, Sheffield United. I think it's them and Sheffield United who are the two that I can't really get my head around completely. But I'm more than happy for them to be in the playoffs. I mean, it's one spot. I'm not going to throw my toys out the pram or anything like that. But
yeah, who'd do that? That's disgraceful.
Yeah, head in hand. Oh, no. To the top. Like,
it's so ridiculous.
It's not the end of it. I'm actually...
Look, now he actually is throwing his toys out the pram. Yeah. For God's sakes, Ivan, you've actually set him off there.
No, it's fine. Don't worry. Yeah, just
I'm fine.
Pointing out
Honestly, it's fine.
Being filthy in the comments. Yeah, thank you very much.
It's all right.
Fairly happy with the table. Like looking at the table.
So am I actually.
Apart from
the top 3, it's pretty good.
Apart from the top, I mean, Luton needs to be higher, but yeah, we knew we were going to be arguing for an hour and a bit.
Well, we have been arguing now for well over an hour, about an hour and 10 minutes, and to be honest, to peek behind the curtains, we've actually been arguing now for a good 2.5 hours because we also did another video recording before this. Do we just literally come on here on evenings during the week just to start arguing with each other, guys? Honestly.
Yeah, it's good to get it out of your system.
It is, isn't it? It is. So there is the table that we've got for the championship, as you can see. Let us know whether or not you agree with the selections that we have come out with. And there you go. Until next time, goodbye.